Welcome to another edition of Be the Change Georgia, where we amplify the voices of the inspiring business leaders surrounding the B Corp and social impact movements across the Southeast to help you learn how to build your legacy at the intersection of people, planet, purpose, and profit. Today, there are more than 8,000 B Corps in over 80 countries and 180 different industries, unified by one common goal: transforming the global economy to benefit all people, communities, and the planet. If you want to learn how to plug into our purpose-driven business community alongside the inspiring leaders we feature on this show, check us out at belocalgeorgia.com or on Instagram or Facebook at belocalgeorgia, and we'll hope to meet you at our next event. Whether you know Joey Womack as a rebel with a cause, an analytics junkie, an optimist, a cynic, a serial envelope pusher, a cult creator, or just an old-fashioned superhero, you're guaranteed to learn from today's conversation with him. Joey's the founder and CEO of Goodie Nation. What started as a hackathon project has evolved into a community for post-accelerator social entrepreneurs and diverse founders, investors, coaches, and companies in the innovation space. As we shift to part two of this conversation, you'll hear why the way the B Corp community measures impact stands out to Joey, why KPIs are essential to making a real impact and tracking real outcomes, and his advice for identifying your purpose in life. Stay tuned as Joey and I dive into the importance of authenticity and purpose in building a business that not only makes a profit, but makes a difference. If you haven't listened to part one of this conversation, we do recommend you go back and check that episode out before listening to this one. Enjoy. It's funny because I feel like sometimes in the B Corp community, I've been this advocate for Atlanta, for Georgia, for the South. I walk around like an idiot all the time in my "The South Got Something to Say" shirt. I literally walked out on stage last week. They're like, "What do you want for walk-up music to speak?" And I came out to Chonky Fire. And I was like, we're going deep cuts right now. And I don't know. I was in Nebraska. I'm like, I don't know if anybody knows this song. I didn't go with Rosa Parks. I didn't go with any of the bangers. I went like way down the album. But also, I love that song because the last line of that is "The South got something to say. That's all I got to say." So yeah. Advocating for this in the B Corp community that grew in kind of the spaces, whatever we can call them, like the Portlands, the Vermonts, the New Yorks, and building this thing in the South has been fun. But also then getting to show off some of our cool entrepreneurs like Jasmine, like Jen Graham, like some of these people that, and like now starting to see like the Kenji Kiramotos and like starting to actually get some, and we're up to 31 B Corps in the state of Georgia. So like, as you've gotten to know me and seeing like me just out here, like anytime somebody, the running joke in our community now is like, be careful talking to Nathan or you'll leave with your company certified as a B Corp. So what is it though about that like purpose and profit? And obviously, Goodie Nation, like it makes, there's a tie in there, but what is it about the B Corp community that stood out to you as something that's different, that is special, and that has a, not just a place in Atlanta, but an opportunity in Atlanta to kind of rewrite this narrative of like how we do business down here?
So check it. I'm about to ask a question to you, right? Or let me, or actually, instead of just me asking the question, let me just kind of pose what I think the answer to the question is. So there are many, in my opinion, there's many reasons why a company should become a B Corp, right? One of which I think is around the measurement of their impact. Is that valid? Okay, check it. Right. So earlier, or some people know this about me, maybe some don't. My goal in life is to positively impact 1 billion people by the year 2039. Right. That's my goal in life. Very specific, time bound, things of that nature. One of the questions I get all the time after people hear me say this is, well, what number are you now? Right. Which is a whole other set of questions around, mindset and, things of that nature. But the big thing from that is around like, what is the actual impact? And so I think the opportunity, again, going back to if Atlanta is going to be the home of social impact and really creating a change, particularly in communities, particularly in Black communities and or Black tech communities, it's around, okay, the storytelling is great. The hype is great. the feeling of creating the impact is great, but what are we actually doing to make the world a better, like literally, how are we measuring it, right? And because, you know, it, the ability to measure your impact has a sustainable effect on the people who are creating the impact in their lives, and they're in the value that they see in themselves and stuff like that, right? So if you um are running any type of entity, from large corporation down to grassroots, you just making stuff happen. If you have the ability as a leader to understand your impact, to set proper goals and understand top KPIs and stuff like that, the likelihood of you actually being successful goes up substantially. Right. And so I think the opportunity with what you're doing, and just the larger movement around B Corps, helps to create better leaders, so that these said leaders can go make tangible impact in the world, not talk about being impactful and getting people, riled up and emotional, and then zero things happen from it. You're actually helping to create better leaders that make the world a better place. And again, I'm proud to know you, because again, with Atlanta and the Metro Atlanta and Georgia area being what many would consider the home of social impact, it should also be the home of measurement of said social impact. So I'm truly appreciative of the work that you all do, work that you do in particular, the rest of the community. And I just think we need more people to know about what you're working on.
No, I appreciate that. And man, you hit it too. It's outcomes. We get caught up in outputs, and it's not like, how have I positively affected, and honestly, when you get into the impact assessment, there's these things called like impact business models, and it's like, do we track the outcomes? And people be like, yeah, we track the outcomes. And you're like, okay, what positive outcomes have you created? And they're like,
Right.
well, I don't know, that was like the next line down. Like, well, that's the question. And that's like the seriousness and the rigor of some of these. And it doesn't mean you can't certify, it just means like, to get points for that question, like you really start digging into and I'm kind of the thorn in B Lab side sometimes around some of this stuff too, where I'm like, that's great that whatever, we got more Black owned businesses to certify as B Corps. Well, every 3 years you have to recertify. So the outcome I'm looking at is how many of them recertify, how many of them got value out of the certification. Did we put them in the front of the newsletter in the picture, or did we add value to their business? And like when we're working with clients, I can help you get B Corp certified. That doesn't mean anything. How do I also help you get B Corp certified and then tell your story in a way where it's like advancing your business? Because to me, it's like, and we have to get better about this as social entrepreneurs, of, I don't want to talk about the good I'm doing. And it's an art. Like, you don't outright talk about the good you're doing. The good you're doing, though, is told in the stories of the people that you're impacting, the companies that you're working with, who you've worked with, where they are now. Like, but you don't have to sit there and go like, I'm Joey and I'm the greatest human being that ever lived. But like, once you get to know Goodie Nation, you get a vibe for that, and you see how you've and you get people like me who will sit here and wax poetic about how Joey's touched my life. And so I think that piece of the social impact world, we've got to get better at being okay with doing good, and then using that good and that impact to sell more and to make more
Yeah.
money and scale our impact. Because the more money we make, the more impact we can have.
Right. So I mean, that's culture. I think there's something that should be explored more around the psyche of people that are, warriors for justice, essentially, right? There's a whole thing around, we got to figure that out. I mean, I experienced it. Like, I don't like talking about the work that we do. I actually get uncomfortable when people give me props, and I need to figure out why. I think part of it is here. I mean, just me being transparent. Part of it is, I don't really know if, how impactful we really are. I think we are very impactful. I think, relative to how much we could do, which is problematic for me. And see, and then you go back to measurement, right? So at Goodie Nation, in the program that we do right now to support entrepreneurs, is helping them to get to the next stage of their business. And so for me, to help people get to the next stage, we have a fourfold promise to founders. One, we'll make sure they set strong priorities and goals. Two, we'll hold them accountable to hitting those goals. Three, we'll activate our community to help if they need it. And then four, we'll help to develop them as leaders and as humans. But the first two parts of that promise, right, is making sure they set strong priorities and goals, is essentially around impact, right? And one of the things that we look for when we admit founders into our community here at Goodie Nation is their ability to identify their top KPIs. If I ask a founder during an interview, what are the top three things that you're focused on for the next 3 or 6 months, and they can't tell me, or it's very, very esoteric, it's not a good fit. I mean, you're not going to be a good fit for our culture and stuff like that. But again, that's measurement, right? Because and we firmly believe that and we have evidence to back this up now. The entrepreneurs, the leaders that go on to have the most success in building a company or making it to the next level, clearly know their top KPIs and can concisely share. And ironically, from a Goodie Nation perspective, we measure a few different things. We measure a lot of different things in terms of the work that we do. But one of the top ones, if not our top one, is the number of what we call quality progress reports every week. And I'm going to geek out a little bit on our programming for a second, but just shortly, every week before we do our weekly meetings of founders, we ask them to fill out a progress report online. It's a form, and it simply states a few different things. One, what are the top 3 things that you accomplished or your company accomplished last week? What are your wins? And we define what wins are: cash in the bank, contract signed, press. It's not I had a meeting with Google, because just because you had a meeting don't mean they're going to do a deal with you, right? Even if they verbally agree, does not mean that they're going to do a deal with you, right? It's progress toward a contract, which is more binding. But once it becomes binding, that's when it's a win. And then the third piece is going to be around their plan for the upcoming week. So one of the things I personally do, I go through each and every one of those progress reports and I rate them on a scale of 1 to 3. And we give points according to a rating. Right? I'm not going to bore you with all the how the scoring breaks down, but up like a certain level of a score for progress reports equals quality, right? So let's say there are a total of 10 points that you can get in a quality progress report. It means you got 6 out of 10 points, at least 6 out of 10. And so then we measure every week the number of quality progress reports, because again, what I'm rating is what did they actually accomplish last week, and then what is their plan for this week, and then did they have any wins? And so that is actually one of our top KPIs, right? If our objective is to help founders get to the next level, I want to see what they're actually doing on a weekly basis to make progress toward that quote unquote next level. And so that's what we're measuring every single week. There are a few other kind of top KPIs that we have. I can share them, in greater detail. But the point I'm trying to make here is that, leaders that clearly know the top areas in which affect their business and which affect the impact they're trying to make have the highest likelihood of success. And organizations like yours that help these impact organizations understand their key metrics, at least have something in place, are instrumental into our impact, or to the community's impact to make the world a better place.
Yeah, no, I love. Well, number one, too, any entrepreneur listening to this, basically what Joey just said too is if you have a plan, and it's funny because I don't write it down, but I'm one of those people in my head that plan is probably more there than I give myself credit for. Where I wake up, at the end of the quarter, I'm like, oh my god, I did all the things. I probably need to become more disciplined like that and do it every week. But that was an entrepreneur hack right there of if you're not intentional about what you said you were going to do at the beginning of Q1 to get you to where you want to be at the end of Q1, and that involves every single week and every single day of action and being intentional with it. That was a pretty cool little tip you just share with everybody listening.
Yeah, and there's a few things baked into that, right? One, organizations like ours, whether you're a startup or any form of social impact, it's hectic, it's chaotic. Things are going to come. You're going to plan to say, these are the things I'm going to accomplish. It's on Monday. These are the things I'm going to accomplish by Friday. And then 10 other things spring up, right? Happens. And that's on the business side. And then on the personal side, life be life and then stuff comes up, which is, you can't separate your personal from your professional. Or very few people can truly do that, even though some people say they can. But someone's ability to navigate those challenges definitely is what can sometimes make or break their company and ultimately the impact they're going to make. And so what's also baked into that is, what process do you have as a leader, especially around social impact, to recap what actually happened that week? On Friday, are you just shutting your laptop down, and then maybe you're picking up the kids, maybe you're going to dinner, maybe going out on a date, who knows, right? Are you just shutting it down? You're not truly, you don't have a true process. You don't have a true process you baked in to actually recap what happened in the week, that chaotic, hectic week. And then secondly, do you actually have a process to which you start your week? You collect all your thoughts, you become mindful, you quickly recap, and then you plan out. Do you literally have a process for that? And then what tools are you using to track all this stuff, right? You can wing it. You can wing it if you want to, but that's a short term thing in my mind. And I think there's and it's one thing for traditional, let me call it non-impact companies to do this, or non-impact founders to do this. But in the impact space, I think we have a larger responsibility to do these things because people's lives are kind of dependent on the work that we do, right? So that's why I love, measurement and the kind of stuff that you all do.
Yeah. No, and I mean, honestly, too, and it's funny, every time I talk to a room of entrepreneurs, tech stars, whatever, and I've added it now to my slides in like big, bold, underlined letters too, like no margin, no mission, like, or a bullet says like stay in business of like, because that's all the other part of impact too, is tracking the, I mean, step one. And it's funny, like I'll take, especially in B Corp circles, I'll take, for wearing my, revenue over everything shirt. And people are like, well, how can you wear that? That's not a very B Corp shirt. I'm like, because it's my reminder though, when I see it and I'm wearing it and I look in the mirror, it's also my reminder though, like step one, I got to sell. Step two, I got to, you got to bring cash, and it's cash flow and it's making payroll and it's all those things that like, yeah, no, revenue's still king. Like I have to make money and the impact comes with it. But I also have a hat that somebody gave me that says people over everything. So I'll wear it together. It's my conundrum
Nice.
outfit. Really confuses people. So, but like that piece too, I think is important of like helping social impact entrepreneurs make good decisions with regards to how much impact, and knowing that like one of those slides I always use has a buffet on the picture. It's all it is, just a picture of a buffet, and it says you don't have to eat everything. And it's kind of that like if you go out of business saving the world, you can't save the world. And I think a lot of impact entrepreneurs, and it's sad to see because they do go out of business because that was their plan, was just like, oh my God, we're going to do this and 10% of revenue is going to go to that. And it's like, hey, right now, put all that revenue back into the business and let's figure out maybe quarterly, let's accrue for what we can do. And but like, some of that strategic, just like you would accrue for like, hey, we want to start adding some new benefits. Well, what are these benefits going to cost us? How much, where's this cash going to come from? Where are we allocating it? How are we allocating it? What budget does it come out of? And then we can figure out how to do it. But I think we have to make sure that everything we do with business is strategic and thought out and budgeted for and sustainable.
Right. One of the things you mentioned a few seconds ago, I think is even more important in the impact space, right? And again, to the work that you all do, I found, at least in the impact space, you can go to a conference every week, maybe multiple, right? Multiple conferences a week, depending on the actual work that you do, not only in a city like Atlanta, but also across the country. You can conference hop all day long. And it's very easy to get in that the race around conferences and events and things of that nature. I'm looping like conference and one-time events, kind of together, and it makes you feel like you're making progress, right? Oh, I'm going to this conference and that conference. I'm speaking here, and I met so and so and so and so. And you do that, and you got a lot of people affirming your work, not yours, Nathan, but just in general. People affirming your work, and you're vibing with folks that are in the same space, and you're having these intellectual discussions, and you feel like you're making an impact. But in reality, you're not. You're just going to conferences and people make you feel good, right? And so again, and I think it's not unique to the impact space, but I think it happens a lot more. You get a lot of people that again get a lot of gratification from attending these conferences, and it just feels good. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. And so it's important to though remember the impact. And then when you have tools, when you have processes in place to measure the actual work you're doing, it's a reminder that, to your point around revenue, everything, or people, you actually got to do the work. I can't spend every single week at a conference or an event. It gets costly, but actually it's taking me away from actually doing the work. Like the job is not to go to a conference. It's not to speak on a panel, right? It's to actually impact lives. And that's why I love it. That being said, everyone go to Nathan's conference. Quick commercial, but there are some conferences you should go to. You
Please
just can't do it
come.
every. You can't do it every single week. You just can't do it. You just gotta as leaders, we gotta prioritize our time. Make time for Nathan's conference. I ain't gonna lie, prioritize that. But you can't come to everything, and you also again you gotta have in having again processes and tools in place to flag. Like you know what, it's 2 weeks out of the month, and we're behind in our impact. Red flag. Maybe I shouldn't go to this event. That's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too. It's like know where your leads come from. Cause for me, it's like, you know, I kept a tally last year. So the conferences I chose to go to early this year during conference season, I just got done with the blitz. And now I'm home again, but like I made it a priority to try to get paid to be there as a speaker or try to at least get a free ticket in a hotel or a hotel and a flight or so that because that they've been my lifeblood as far as leads. But if you're there and this isn't a lead generator or that conference isn't, somebody was talking about the one I was at in Austin earlier this week, and they said, I love this conference because everybody here's the CEO. So you're like, you're meeting the decision maker. So if they like you and they want to do something, they're the person who's going to do it versus some conferences you go to and you're like, oh my God, I made this great connection and blah, blah, blah. And it's like the head of procurement, like, okay, that's cool. Like maybe he can sell it, but you didn't. Yeah, you made a great, in your mind though, you justify that as like, man, I got some real hot leads out of this conference. So yeah, I think too, being strategic about where you're going and what you're doing. Cause I can tell you that it gets expensive and nobody wants to live out of a suit. And after a while, they're all the same.
Right.
So unlike Build Southeast, September 11th and 12th in Atlanta, it's going to be great.
Go to that one.
So that one's going to be good. One more question I want to ask you around. We talked, and we've had this conversation before, like around authenticity. Like I want to say, like, what if I mean, you and I are clearly like we are who we are. Like Goodie Nation 10-year anniversary, you didn't like put a suit on for it. I still roll into my red jacket everywhere I go. Sometimes I take the hat off, but very rarely. But that authenticity of like being who you are, and like you've always been that guy. I guess what advice would you have for somebody listening to about like struggling? Because you do, like, especially that first job, you're trying to be like corporate or whatever it is. And like the IT space has its own thing where it's like my jeans and my t-shirt and my shoes. And like, what have you learned in just like embracing the true Joey Womack? Because I know I've learned a lot, but this isn't about me. I'm interviewing you. So what have you learned as you've kind of embraced just being who you are, and where is it taking you?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's that whole, I mean, as a, someone who went to school in Tallahassee, Florida, but then, in Atlanta with the Braves and stuff, you think back to something that Deion Sanders said, right? When you look good, you play good. And when you play good, they pay good. Right. And so what that really speaks to, what I take from it is confidence, right? When you're confident and you can be truly who you are, the best version of yourself comes out and you'll get rewarded by it. He says, hey, but I mean, you're free. You're free to be who you are. And so I've been fortunate to be on this pathway, to be who I am to truly kind of be myself for the past 20 or so years. Right. And I've had some help in shaping my life's purpose and my goal and stuff like that. But I've also kind of used my own experiences to come up with this framework that I've shared with others in terms of kind of helping them to identify their life's purpose, which helps them to be authentic. Right. And so it comes in 3 phases. It's almost like a Venn diagram. So the first circle is what makes you upset. Right. Identify what makes you truly upset in this world. And so for me, it'd be easy for me to say racism makes me upset, which it does. But like, that's not what makes me most upset in this world. What makes me most upset is unrealized potential. Unrealized potential, which 2 things. One, it means I'm always upset, but still, 2, it drives a lot of my actions. So what makes you typically upset changes your behavior and it drives your actions. Right. And so that's the first thing. Identify what makes you truly upset in this world, or the things. And so when you identify something, you can use root cause analysis, so the 5 whys, to truly understand what it is. So again, I could say racism, but like, why does racism make me upset? And then why? And then why does that happen? And I got down eventually to, people don't have the opportunity to realize their potential. And that's what truly makes me upset. Right. The second piece is identifying what you really like to do, typically when you're in the fourth or fifth grade, whatever age that is, 10, 11, something like that. In my experience in the traditional American or school system, again, that's fourth and fifth grade. And usually, at least with public schools, there's you got elementary school that goes to fifth grade. Again, it varies depending on how old you are and where you live and stuff. But generally speaking, you got kindergarten to fifth grade is in one school. Middle school is sixth to eighth grade in another school. Then the rest is, ninth grade to 12th grade. Right. And so if you think back, if you've had that type of schooling experience, you think back, like typically people in fourth, fifth grade are a few things. One, they're older than the kindergartners, first and second graders. They actually, from a mindset, a brain standpoint, they're not obviously who they are, but they are more aware of the world, right? But they're not in middle school where they're trying to impress the seventh and eighth graders. And so the pressures of society haven't really, generally speaking, I know a lot of people don't have this experience, but the pressures of society haven't started to impact them yet, right? And so typically what I found is that people around fourth and fifth grade, that's truly who they are as humans. So if you start to look at the things that you like to do as a fourth and fifth grader, whether it's playing the piano or an instrument, whether it's drawing, whether it's painting, whether it's singing, whatever, like that typically is who you truly are as a human, because you haven't started to conform to society yet. Now, caveat, maybe kids growing up in social media age and TikTok is a different thing. But anyway, like that's how I was when I grew up. And so, but you have the main point, you haven't started to conform to the world yet. You're truly free to be who you are, right? Again, super general. And so if you can intersect like that Venn diagram, the circle of who you truly are, with what makes you upset, you've made a lot of progress toward identifying your purpose. Now the third and final Venn diagram is the experiences of your family, maybe your parents, grandparents, sisters, brothers, if you have siblings, if you have them, aunts and uncles, so on and so forth. And I want to identify or recognize that not everybody can do this for various reasons. So you can stop at the first two Venn diagrams or circles to be okay. This third one hones it in a little bit more. And this is, again, what are the skills and or jobs of your family? And so for me, when I talk about I'm a community builder, ecosystem developer, my mother is a human LinkedIn. She also, ironically, in the late 80s, ran a small business development center. So founder entrepreneur support program at a community college in Mobile, Alabama. Actually, at that same job when I first got on the computer, right? I first touched a computer and stuff. And so, that's my mom. Now, my dad is a community activist in Mobile, Alabama, right? And so he and I are like, my mom and I are like, and so, I am my parents' child, right? And so, their skills, transferred into me, which is obvious. But, again, not everyone can do that, right? Again, some people can look at their siblings and see, okay, I can see a little bit of my sibling in me, or my grandparent, or someone, so forth. So if you can do that, if at all possible, you can identify, the skills of your family, your immediate family. You can then intersect that with what you were like as a kid, 10, 11 years old, hopefully, or whatever it is, before the pressures of the world made you conform, and then intersect that with what makes you upset in the world. It will help you to identify your purpose. And going back to your original question, is it helps you to be authentic. It helps you it truly helps you to be who you are, which allows you to have confidence, allows you to have confidence to move fast, and it starts to help you attract people that will give you what you need to identify to achieve your purpose. People thought this concept of once I start doing stuff and once I start living on purpose, things start coming to me, which is real. I've experienced this, right? And there are multiple reasons to maybe depending on what you believe in, which is perfectly okay. But what I can tell you, and I think what you're alluding to, when people feel if they're confident and that you are authentic, they are attracted to that. They can probably see a little bit of themselves in you, and then they will start to want to join your mission, your movement. And that's that's how you make that happen.
Damn. Also, after like hearing that, I'm like, I might need to go lay down on my therapist's couch. I'm like, let's see, what did dad do? What did mom do? Oh Lord. I'm not saying that publicly. No, man, that was it's 100%. And like, yeah, you're right. Like the people you attract, and like I've been saying this for a while, trying to figure out like some of the people that like I don't want to say I've like flipped friends over, but like just the new friends that you attract into your world. Like, I mean, even like Lavanya Jones just joined my board, and like I met her shockingly enough at a Goodie Nation event. And yeah, and just like the universe just puts her right next to me, and she's like, I'm looking to meet people in the social impact ecosystem. And I just literally turned to her and was like, I'm Nathan. Like, and now like she's on the board, like we just become friends, like we text, and like it's you move beyond like we're just like and her husband Fred, like it's just all these people that I've found in. I keep finding them, they keep finding me. But yeah, that I always joke sometimes like finding my fellow crazies too, and it's people who are like out to change the world. And but we're also like each other's therapists. We're each other's like, hey, you need to take it easy, you need to take a break, you need to whatever, or hey, I got this person you need to meet, or I found this grant, you'd be perfect for it. Like it's those people who have your back, and who you want to spend more time with.
Right.
We'll get you out of here with one more quick little like plug or whatever. But obviously Build Southeast is coming in September, and this will be on. People will be like, what's September? It's October. Yeah, you'll find this podcast later than Build Southeast. But I do want to say, like, on the air, I appreciate you coming out and doing that. Opening day is going to be amazing. We're locking down some of the final excursions, hoping to get some people to Rice, hoping to get some people to the Bends, and then hopefully we have the venue booked for the kickoff event, getting everybody to kind of convene in the middle at Atlantucky. Still pushing scales. Like, come on, y'all can do like 3 songs, right? Just a couple. But we're gonna be at Atlantucky, and you're gonna come do the Welcome to Atlanta opening keynote, and I'm just excited for everybody. I'm excited to show off Atlanta. I'm excited to show, I think, the rest of the country too, what's uniquely different about how we conduct business and how we operate with this like abundance mindset where everybody's on the same team. And if you're like, I try to explain, to be like, what do you mean? I'm like, Atlanta's just if you're here for it, you're here for it. And we sniff you out real quick. And if you're willing to do the work, you're willing to do the work, and that's it. You're on the team. So I'm excited for you to kind of to welcome everybody. And I don't know if you have anything to add to that. It was more my soapbox.
No, yeah. I'm looking forward to, man. So, and even looking forward to what kind of leads up to it. So let's lock in. Yeah, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, man. Well, appreciate you as always, and yeah, man, it's been great getting to know you, and adding you to my friend list of fellow crazies out there in the world, just trying to make the world a better place every day. So appreciate you making time for this and sharing your wisdoms, like an in-depth conversation between 2 friends who we got to share it with the world.
There it is. I love it. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate it, Joey, man. Thank you.
Well, that wraps up another edition of Be the Change Georgia. We're grateful, as always, for the opportunity to serve you with this content and grow this incredible community of purpose-driven B Corp leaders. If you haven't already, we would be grateful for you to rate this show wherever you get your podcasts by simply tapping the number of stars you think it deserves and sharing it with a friend. This helps us get the word out and continue to use our collective influence as a force for good. This podcast wouldn't be possible without the help from our production team at Chat with Leaders Media. Learn how you can launch your own podcast to grow your business at chatwithleaders.com. Thanks again for listening, and now go be a leader worth following.